If you're African, you may soon be banned from coming to the U.S. The Trump administration is considering travel restrictions on 22 African nations.
In a move that's sending shockwaves across the globe, Donald Trump has just issued a startling 60-day ultimatum to Ibrahim Traore, and the world is watching closely. What's coming next could change the game entirely. Over the past few months, Africa's geopolitical landscape has been turned upside down by bold and unprecedented U.S. policies, from travel bans to aid cuts, exposing vulnerabilities but also igniting a powerful new wave of self-reliance and unity across the continent. This isn't just a showdown between superpowers, it's Africa's fight to reclaim its destiny, challenge neocolonialism, and prove that it has the resources, the people, and the potential to forge its own future. Stay tuned, because what's coming next might just reshape the entire world order. You won't believe what's happening. Let's get into it. The resurgence of Trump and the new African policy. Since his return to the White House in January 2025, Donald Trump has swiftly revived some of his most controversial policies, with a sharp focus on Africa. Historically, U.S. relations with Africa have oscillated between strategic partnerships and exploitative practices. Yet, under Trump's renewed administration, the emphasis has shifted toward exerting economic and diplomatic pressure. On June 4, 2025, Trump signed a proclamation that barred entry to citizens from 12 countries, including Chad, the Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Libya, Somalia, and Sudan. The justification cited concerns about terrorism, security threats, and immigration control. However, the real motive appears to be a calculated effort to weaken African nations by undermining their mobility, economies, and diplomatic standing.
Today, I am signing a new executive order placing travel restrictions on countries including Yemen, Somalia, Haiti, Libya, and numerous others.
This initial move was met with swift condemnation from across Africa. The African Union, which rarely issues unified statements, responded with a rare show of solidarity, expressing deep concern and calling for dialogue. Yet, Trump's administration was only warming up. Leaked documents obtained by media outlets revealed plans to expand the travel ban to an additional 36 countries, 25 of which are African nations, covering Angola, Benin, Burkina Faso, Cameroon, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Ethiopia, Ghana, Nigeria, South Sudan, Tanzania, Uganda, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and others. This comprehensive list signals a deliberate attempt to isolate Africa economically, diplomatically, and socially, forcing its governments into a corner. The 60-day ultimatum, a threat to Africa's future. The U.S. government's imposition of a 60-day ultimatum demanding compliance with specific benchmarks constitutes a strategic leverage point designed to coerce African nations into submission. These benchmarks include passport security, visa management, deportation cooperation, anti-terrorism measures, and other criteria linked to perceived national security threats. Failure to meet these benchmarks would result in the implementation of full or partial entry bans, effectively severing vital ties, trade routes, remittances, foreign investment, educational exchanges, and diplomatic cooperation that many African countries depend on. For example, Nigeria, Africa's largest economy and a hub of diaspora influence, faces the risk of losing access to American markets, visas, and financial remittances. Ghana, with its significant US-based student population and health partnerships, would face economic destabilization if relations further deteriorate. This approach underscores a broader strategic goal: to impose a form of economic and diplomatic coercion that pressures African governments into aligning more closely with U.S. interests, or conversely, to punish those resisting this new paradigm. The economic and diplomatic fallout. The consequences of these policies extend beyond immediate travel restrictions. They threaten to unravel decades of engagement that have supported Africa's development ambitions. For over half a century, American aid and investment, though often flawed, have contributed to health initiatives, infrastructure projects, and capacity building. Aid reductions and their impacts. In early 2025, the U.S. announced significant aid cuts across the continent, targeting sectors such as health, education, infrastructure, and governance. For instance, Ghana faced the termination of U.S.-funded health programs. such as maternal health and disease control initiatives, leaving hospitals underfunded and ill-equipped. Nigeria experienced reductions in aid for agriculture and rural development, stalling ongoing projects like water supply systems and rural electrification. These aid cuts create immediate crises, healthcare shortages, unemployment, infrastructural decay, while exposing deeper systemic vulnerabilities. Corruption and aid siphoning. Interestingly, these aid cuts have also shed light on long-standing issues of corruption. Numerous aid-funded projects, initially lauded as catalysts for development, were often misappropriated by elites or failed to reach their intended beneficiaries. Hospitals built with aid funds sometimes lacked essential staff or equipment, and infrastructure projects faced delays or substandard execution. This raises critical questions about the effectiveness of aid as a tool for sustainable development and highlights the need for reform toward more transparent, accountable systems. Economic repercussions. Many African economies are highly dependent on U.S. trade, investment, and remittances. The abrupt withdrawal or restriction of these flows can destabilize local economies, increase unemployment, and slow growth. For example, Nigeria's oil exports and diaspora remittances constitute significant portions of its GDP. Disruptions could exacerbate inflation, fuel social unrest, and threaten political stability. Geopolitical shift. The U.S. move also impacts African diplomacy, as traditional allies find themselves isolated or pressured. Countries like Ethiopia, which rely on U.S. aid and diplomatic support in regional conflicts, now face increased vulnerability. Meanwhile, adversaries or rivals, such as China and Russia, are poised to fill the vacuum, expanding their influence through investments, security partnerships, and diplomatic outreach.
The government began developing its first homegrown defense industry, a concept many had considered impossible. Instead of begging for weapons from external powers, Burkina Faso would design and manufacture its own military equipment.
Burkina Faso's defiance stand. Amid the chaos and mounting pressure, one African nation has emerged as a beacon of resilience and defiance: Burkina Faso, under the leadership of Captain Ibrahim Traore. Since seizing power in a 2022 coup, Traoré has been advocating for a radically different approach: reject Western patronage, harness national resources, and pursue a path of self-reliance. When the U.S. announced its initial aid cuts and travel restrictions, Traoré responded boldly. His government declared that Burkina Faso had achieved 91% of its development goals in 2023 without U.S. support, challenging the narrative that foreign aid is essential for progress. In a landmark speech, Traoré stated, "We have received French aid for 63 years, but our country has not developed. Cutting it off will not kill us. It will push us to work and rely on ourselves." This message resonated deeply across Africa, inspiring a new generation of leaders and citizens to rethink their dependence on Western aid. Harnessing resources and building a self-sufficient nation. Traoré's government has turned to Burkina Faso's vast mineral wealth, gold, manganese, zinc, phosphate, to fund national development. With over 50 tons of gold produced annually, the government has invested heavily in health, infrastructure, and education. Hospitals have been outfitted with modern equipment, and mobile clinics now reach remote villages. The healthcare sector has seen remarkable reforms. For example, the rural village of Koudougou now boasts a state-of-the-art clinic that provides free or heavily subsidized treatment. In 2024, a 12-year-old girl named Amina Dio contracted severe malaria. Thanks to the new health infrastructure, her mother received affordable treatment, and Amina's life was saved. A poignant illustration of how national self-reliance can translate into tangible human benefits.
University Hospital of Bobo Dioulasso in Burkina Faso.
In education, Traoré's government has built hundreds of new schools, especially in rural areas, and provided free textbooks, uniforms, and meals. This investment in human capital is designed to cultivate a generation of Nigerians who do not depend on foreign aid, but on their own talent and effort. Revolutionizing agriculture and food security. Burkina Faso's fertile lands, once exploited by foreign agribusinesses, are now being cultivated by local farmers supported by government-backed cooperatives. the government banned the export of raw crops like cotton and shea nuts, insisting on local processing to add value and create jobs. Farmers like Mariam Saugo, who used to struggle to feed her family, are now thriving. With irrigation pumps, high-yield seeds, and training, Mariam can grow enough millet and sorghum to sell at local markets, earning a steady income. For her, the revolution in agriculture means dignity restored and independence gained.
Led by Captain Ibrahim Traore, the government has launched one of the biggest agricultural support programs in West Africa. In just 1 year, over 400 tractors, 700 water pumps, and tens of thousands of tons of fertilizer and seeds have been handed out across the country.
In 2024, Burkina Faso launched a national initiative to promote food sovereignty. This included establishing processing industries for cashews, shea butter, and other agricultural products, turning the country into a regional hub for agro-processing. The success of these programs demonstrates that Africa's vast arable land and youthful workforce can be harnessed to break free from dependence on imports. Infrastructure and urban development. Traoré's government is also investing heavily in infrastructure, building roads, bridges, and schools, particularly in neglected rural regions. In towns like Djibo, once cut off from markets due to poor transportation, new paved roads now connect farmers directly to urban centers, reducing post-harvest losses and boosting incomes. The government funds infrastructure projects through mineral revenues, ensuring that local workers and resources are prioritized. This approach contrasts sharply with previous reliance on foreign loans and contractors, which often led to inflated costs and subpar quality. Education and human capital development. In education, Burkina Faso has made remarkable progress. Hundreds of new schools have been constructed and thousands of teachers trained through government-funded programs. The focus on education aims to prepare a skilled workforce capable of driving national growth and innovation. The government's investment in education and health is creating a cycle of empowerment, building a foundation for sustainable development driven by local talent, not foreign aid or intervention. The African continent. From dependency to power. Traoré's success is inspiring a broader movement across Africa. His model demonstrates that resource-rich countries can prioritize self-reliance, reject neo-colonial dependence, and build resilient economies. Countries like Nigeria, Ghana, Ethiopia, and others are observing Burkina Faso's example and contemplating similar strategies. The current crisis has revealed the fragility of dependence. Many African leaders have relied on Western aid to mask corruption and mismanagement. The aid cuts and travel bans have laid bare systemic weaknesses, but they have also created a sense of urgency for change. The power of unity and a shared vision. Imagine an Africa united by a common purpose, a single currency backed by gold and minerals, a common visa facilitating free movement across nations, and a unified military capable of defending sovereignty. Such a vision is ambitious but increasingly plausible. A united Africa with one voice could leverage its vast resources, gold, diamonds, cobalt, lithium, rare earth metals, to reshape global trade. It could demand fair prices for its raw materials, break free from exploitative agreements, and develop its own industries in technology, manufacturing, and agriculture. Cultural unity, symbolized by a common language like Swahili, could foster intra-African trade. Currently, only 15% of total trade, compared to 60% in Europe. With a single continental market, millions of young Africans could find jobs, and the continent could become a global powerhouse. The challenges ahead. While the outlook is promising, significant hurdles remain. Africa's diversity, ethnically, linguistically, and politically, poses challenges to unity. Corruption, political instability, and external meddling continue to threaten progress. However, the current crisis offers an unprecedented opportunity. Leaders like Traoré exemplify that sovereignty, resourcefulness, and unity are achievable. Africa's vast mineral wealth, accounting for 30% of the world's reserves, can serve as the foundation for economic independence if harnessed wisely. Africa's dawn or its twilight? The policies of Donald Trump's administration, travel bans, aid cuts, diplomatic confrontations, have undoubtedly exposed vulnerabilities across Africa. Yet paradoxically, they have also ignited a spirit of resilience and innovation. Africa stands at a crossroads. Will it remain dependent on external aid and influence, or will it seize this moment to forge its own destiny? Leaders like Ibrahim Traore exemplify that the path towards sovereignty is feasible. By harnessing resources, building institutions, and uniting its diverse peoples, Africa can redefine its role on the global stage. The continent's youthful population, rich mineral reserves, and vibrant cultures are its greatest assets. The world is beginning to recognize this potential, an Africa that acts with one voice, with one purpose, focused on self-reliance and regional integration, could transform global dynamics. The era of external dependency is ending. The dawn of African sovereignty is breaking. Africa's rise is unstoppable. The era of dependence is over. The continent is awakening. Its moment is now, and nothing can halt its ascent. The future belongs to Africa.